The moment I opened my desk drawer and saw crumbs where my sandwich should have been, I knew this wasn't about food anymore. I work in a normal office with normal people who say good morning like it's a legal requirement. And every day I bring the same lunch. Nothing fancy, just something that proves I have my life together until 1 p.m. That day, my lunch was gone, and in its place was a napkin folded like an apology that never showed up. At first, I told myself it was a mistake. Then it happened again. And again. My yogurt vanished. My protein bar disappeared. Someone even drank half my smoothie and put it back like we were sharing custody. I started labeling everything with my name, then my name in all caps, then passive-aggressive smiley faces that screamed, "I'm calm, but I'm documenting this." The office changed. People avoided eye contact. Someone suggested a fridge etiquette meeting, which is corporate for "we don't trust each other." I set a trap. An extra spicy meal, the kind that makes you rethink your childhood. By 2:15, one coworker was sweating through a performance review and pretending it was allergies. That's when HR emailed me. Subject: regarding your lunch situation. They called me in, serious faces, closed door. Turns out the food thief wasn't stealing. They thought my lunches were communal. Why? Because months ago, during onboarding, I once said, "Help yourself if you're hungry," about the candy jar on my desk. The candy jar I threw away last year. To them, I wasn't being robbed. I was being generous on a long-term payment plan. HR asked me to clarify my boundaries. I nodded professionally, like a person learning they accidentally started a buffet. The next day, I brought my lunch again. Same drawer, same sandwich. This time, I taped a note to it. Not shared. Seriously. At noon, I opened the drawer. The sandwich was still gone, but the note was back, with a smiley face drawn underneath.
My boss humiliated me in front of the entire office, and the chair he was sitting in already knew it. I was a project manager in an open space office where privacy went to die, standing beside the printer while my boss explained, loudly, how my mistake almost cost the company a client. Everyone watched, nobody blinked. First, he reassigned my project on the spot, handing it to his favorite employee like a trophy. Then he ordered me to stay late all week to learn responsibility, while he left early for a networking dinner. Finally, he made me bring a chair into the conference room for a quick meeting because apparently I'd lost the privilege of sitting comfortably. What he didn't realize was that this wasn't just any chair. Facilities had tagged it that morning: loose bolt, temporary fix, replace before next meeting. He waved it off when they told him, said, "I'll be quick." The meeting started with his usual speech about leadership and accountability. Then the chair sighed. Then it collapsed. No injury, just dignity damage, the kind that echoes. The room froze. Someone coughed. Someone laughed by accident. That's when HR walked in, not for the chair, for him. Turns out the client didn't almost leave because of my mistake. They almost left because of his behavior, documented, witnessed, and timed perfectly with today's meeting. I hadn't defended myself earlier because I didn't need to. I'd already spoken to them directly, in person, weeks ago. By the end of the day, I got my project back. He got escorted out holding the broken chair like evidence. And every time I hear a chair creak now, I remember he humiliated me in under a minute, right before the seat he chose decided to return the favor.
My boss fired me in under 60 seconds, and the clock on the wall was still ticking when I realized he'd just ruined his own career. I was a senior analyst in a glass office that smelled like burnt coffee and fear, standing across from a man who smiled the way people do when they've already decided you're disposable. He said, "Budget cuts, slid a folder across the desk, and didn't look me in the eyes. First, he locked me out of my email before lunch, like that would erase 5 years of work. Then he announced my role was redundant in the team meeting, thanked me for my contributions, and replaced me with his nephew, who clapped like he'd won something. Finally, HR escorted me out while my boss watched from his office, arms crossed, victorious, and slightly shiny. What he didn't know, what he never knew, was that 3 weeks earlier, he'd asked me to draft a compliance report for an internal audit. He skimmed the first page, nodded, and said, "Send it when you're done." I did. He never opened it. That report flagged a quiet little accounting trick he'd invented to make his numbers look heroic. Nothing dramatic, just illegal. And it was scheduled, automatically, to be forwarded to legal if I ever lost system access. By Friday, the office was buzzing. By Monday, his office door was locked. By Wednesday, his nephew was gone, the CFO was sweating, and my phone rang with an apology so sincere it could have been nominated for an award. They offered my job back, a better title, a raise. I declined. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't yelling or lawsuits or revenge speeches. It's letting someone get fired by the email they were too arrogant to read. He fired me in under 60 seconds, and if you rewatch closely, that clock never stopped ticking.